Are you looking for a podcast where you can hear from real people regarding their real dental drama? If so, then you've come to the right place. Join hosts Bethany Petty and Dr. Rena Kuba as we dive into the solutions we've created and the mistakes we've made while managing dental drama. Let's get started.
All right, welcome Amanda to Managing Dental Drama. I'm so excited to have my sister-in-law here. I have had multiple clients ask me to have an office manager on the show. And anytime somebody asks, I'm like, oh, I got to have Amanda. But then you live in a different state and we have a million children between the two of us and we're hardly ever together. And so I was like, on your birthday, I'm going to bring you into the studio and make you talk. So thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for thinking about me and wanting me on your show. I'm so excited to be here.
So tell our listeners, how did you get into the dental field? What was your path to get into the dental field?
So I had never grown up going to dental offices or having routine checkups or anything like that. And, honestly, I fell into this because of the family connection.
Yeah.
So I was working as a paralegal and doing all of that and decided that it was probably time to switch fields and get into something what I thought was a little bit more calm. And which, lo and behold, it's just a different kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But in a good way.
Yeah.
So, helping people in one way with all of their legal trouble is a lot different than helping people build their confidence and really change their life as well. So that was kind of the backstory behind that. And I started out, as you know, with Dr. Jones Family Dentistry, Randall D. Jones Family Dentistry. And it's just been uphill ever since then.
Yeah.
I guess however which way you want to look at it, uphill, downhill, but awesome. I hate to use the term downhill because that seems like negative, but it's been pretty smooth sailing, we all get along and can work with each other and manage each other. So
I feel like that's life though. Highs and lows.
Oh yeah.
No matter what,
For
so
sure.
So you decided, okay, family business, I'm getting into it. What position did you start with in the practice?
So I was hired on for front desk, so business assistant type work. My actual role was the financial coordinator.
Okay.
So whenever I started with Randall D. Jones Family Dentistry, we all had different, I guess, things that we were in charge of, that we were owners of. So one of my business assistants, she was the insurance coordinator, and she handled making sure everything was all the claims had everything that they needed attached to them before we submitted them to insurance companies so that we didn't get as many rejections.
Right.
Making sure that we had, the correct payer IDs and just everything that's included with insurances. We had the hygiene coordinator that was the owner of the hygiene schedule.
Yeah.
And myself, being the financial coordinator, I was in charge of making sure that everybody got the financial assistance that they needed, collecting on day of service, and being in charge of the doctor's schedule and making sure that, we had full confirmed schedules and that it was going to be profitable as well.
Gotcha. It's interesting now that I'm hearing you say that, I'm a big proponent of hiring people outside of the dental field and pulling them into the dental field because my philosophy is there's so much talent outside of the dental field, and then to kind of bring them into our field because it's a great field to be in. And as you're talking, I'm like, you really stepped in from a paralegal, background into what I would view as one of the more difficult roles in the practice, the financial coordinator. Was that difficult, that whole process? Or, that's pretty remarkable.
So being able to collect the money wasn't really an issue for me. And I think that that's just a personality trait. You have to find the right person in that position to be able to say, hey, can I have $2,000 today?
With a smile on your face?
Yeah, with a smile on your face and really be happy about it. But as far as coming in and learning all of the dental terminology and things that encompass a dental office, it was a little overwhelming at first, but if you're committed to it, like, I don't know very many people that come into the dental field and then they leave it for life.
I
You
would
know?
agree.
Like, you're in it, you love what you do, you care about your patients, and you just love the people.
Yeah.
And you're making a difference every day.
Yeah. It's hard to leave that.
I know, right? So it's just exciting, and like, you can literally look back on the day before and find 1, 2, 3, keep going, and be like, this person was so happy. This person cried when they left in a good way because they were so happy, you know.
Happy tears.
Happy tears, not crying because they're sad. But yeah, so it's heartwarming.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel good about what you're doing and why you wake up every morning and go to your job.
Well, and I think you bring up a good point. It's that commitment. It's like, once you know I've found a field that I love, that I want to be in, and I'll do what it takes, even though it's not my background, I'll do what it takes to learn it. I think you're right. Pulling in kind of the right people, the ones that they get a taste of that, you know, happiness that we're able to create, and they're like, okay, I'm committed. I'm in. So I love that background story. Okay, so then fast forward, because you're office manager. So tell us how that happened.
Yes. So really, it took my regional manager to say, we have to have an office manager who's going to step up and do it. And I was like, I would love, you know, that opportunity to see if I can help people, guide people along the way to really offer the best patient experience possible.
Yeah.
Because really, that's what we're in it for. We're in it for the patient. We're not in it, well, aside from profitability.
Yeah. We got to make money.
We got to make money at it too. But making sure that people are leaving happy and that they're telling their friends and family about us too. And I have so many patients come in, actually just last week said, you know, we had a new patient come in and she said, who runs this office? Who's responsible for me being here and loving it here and it being such a wonderful family atmosphere? And everybody was like, Amanda. And they like all turned around and pointed at me, and I was like, hi. Like, really, I just want to be in the background, you know? Like, I don't really care to be like, I'm the office manager and this is my office and you're going to come to me with all of your problems. Like, I want everybody to be able to think that they can solve a problem. You know, like, what would you do? And as long as it's the right thing, then do it.
Yeah.
I think that that's another thing. I have a lot of faith and trust in my people. I've hired most of them, or I've worked with them for 10, 15 years now. And I know that not every private practice or not every dental office is going to have that longevity with their team members. But if you're hiring the right people and you know that you can get along with them, then you're going to be able to trust them to make difficult decisions in any given situation and trust that it's the right decision to be made.
Yeah. I love that philosophy because, again, it's that idea of empowering somebody. Nobody wants to be micromanaged. And again, sometimes we need support from leadership, like our manager. But I think when you've got a manager that's like, I believe in you, I do trust you to make these decisions, and we're prepared for the mistakes that they'll make, and we're going to be there to help clean it up. But then next time they're going to learn from that. I feel like that's such a good leadership model.
Right. Like, I want you to try. And if that fails, then you can bring them to me. I'll clean it up. You know?
I got a really good mop.
But like, I trust you to try.
Yeah.
And you're never going to grow without failure anyways. So, yeah.
And I know plenty of managers that's hard for them because they feel like that mistake's going to reflect badly on me. Like, oh, if my team makes a mistake that has consequences, well, then that's going to look bad on me. And I think that kind of trickles up to the head of that practice. You know, who's the doctor, who's the owner, and are you empowering your manager to be able to manage in a way that they do have that freedom, that mistakes are going to happen. Like, we're human. Mistakes are going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
So can you speak a little bit to how you have that freedom to manage in that way?
Yes, absolutely. So whenever you were saying that, I was thinking, oh my gosh, like, the doctor office manager partnership has to be so mutually respectful, right? So I have worked with doctors in the past outside of what I call my home practice, and no offense to doctors, but, you know, egos can get in the way.
Yes.
I've seen doctors that can get very angry, throw things, yell at their team members in front of patients, and really just not trust the office manager to run the practice. I think that whenever I see things like that, nobody's going to respect the office manager if their doctor is undermining them, or that they don't have faith in them to be able to run their practice. And in the same sense, the office manager has got to understand that they are the doctor. They went to school, you know, for as long as they did. Not everybody is as business minded, but you have an idea of how you want your business to be ran, and you have to respect that too. So being able to have that mutual respect and being able to have times that you can say, hey doctor, can I talk to you about something? And like, even if you have to shut the door, maybe it's after the last patient of the day, or maybe you just go grab lunch together. Maybe it's in the morning. You guys can have a little morning meeting before you start the day. But you have to have that time to connect and to say, hey, these are some problems that I'm having. I really need your support if I talk to this team member about something that's going on. If they end up coming to you as the leader of the practice, I would like for you to have my back. Or I'm thinking about handling it this way. Is that okay with you? How would you handle it? And also just making sure that you're on the same page, because nothing is worse than going and trying to reprimand a team member and then them going back to either the doctor or the office manager and them undermining each other.
Yeah.
You're not going to have a cohesive workplace if that happens. So just great communication, partnership, you know, mutual respect, I think are the main things that I would really
takeaways from that. Well, and I like your idea of just the frequency of communication. I feel I kind of equate the owner-manager relationship similar to a marriage. It's like if I never talked to my husband except for when there was a problem, well, that's going to be a pretty crappy relationship, you know? It's like we got to have some positive conversations and some dreaming together and some time away from you know, our home to be able to have a connection that is meaningful. And I do feel like that's important even with an owner manager, even if it's like you said, 10 minutes before the day starts. And we just decide, let's touch base, make sure we're on the same page today. Any kind of issues you want me to address, like any concerns you have about the schedule. I mean, even just 10 minutes a day is powerful in being able to go, hey, we can communicate with one another. We do communicate on a frequent basis. And it's not just, I got another fire I need you to put out, or you put that fire out the wrong way and I don't like it, you know. It's like we've got to have plenty of communication, and that doesn't have to be complex communication.
Absolutely. And what you were just saying too about like, oh, something, I think you had said something about the schedule. Well, how many times do we walk in and the schedule is the exact same from the beginning of the day to the end of the day? And you want to be able to help patients out. You know that you're going to have emergency calls. So also touching base in the morning and saying, okay, like I know that this is our schedule. We have these confirmed patients. If we have some emergencies call in, where would be your ideal place to put these patients? Where can we say yes and help people in the community out as well? You know, they might say, gosh, I just don't know if I could work anybody else into my schedule today. Just give me one spot, you know?
Yeah.
And like I said, there's going to be people that fail. There's going to be, especially this time of the year, there's going to be people that call in and they're saying, oh gosh, you know, I just tested positive for the flu or something like that. I'm so sorry. It's unexpected things. And we don't want to be like, gosh, aren't you going to come in anyways?
Please, you know, please spread the flu to all of us.
Come in anyways. We had you on the schedule for an hour, you know. But we want to be able to say, okay, I understand. But you know what? You had an emergency call in that morning. Or, you know, you said, gosh, you know, I can't fit you in today, but I can fit you in tomorrow. Well, guess what? You can call them and say, I have a spot for you now. Come on in. Or in the morning, whenever you talk to your doctor, say, doctor said I could fit an emergency in at 2:00. You know, like,
then you've just got at least that one space available.
And eventually you can start working towards, all right, can I get one more.
Well, I think you bring up a good point. I mean, sometimes that manager relationship, it's a liaison between so many different things. Like, you are kind of the bridge between the doctor and the staff. You're the bridge between the doctor and the patient. You're the bridge between the doctor and the schedule. You know that there's goals that need to be met from a financial standpoint. You're the bridge because you need your doctor to be able to meet those goals. And so there's this constant balancing act that I feel like an office manager truly does have, where you want to represent both sides. Yes, the doctor and the staff, the doctor and the patients, the doctor and the schedule, and you've got this constant teeter-totter. And so I think you bring up a good point, which is sometimes that office manager relationship, if you're coming to your doctor with like, hey, I just need one spot, there's a pretty good chance she's going to come back later with, I really need 2 spots, right? Because you're thinking about both sides and how far can I push my doc that he or she's comfortable with, but then also I've got to be paying attention to the needs of the patient at the same time. So I think that's
Absolutely.
just part of that role for sure.
Yes, and as an office manager, hopefully the doctor does have goals, like you were saying, and that's all part of that communication as well. Like, work with your doctor on the goals, or if they're gung-ho and they can make up their own goals, great, all the better. But you have to be aware of those goals so that you can partner with them and help them meet them. Mm-hmm. Because ideally, your doctor is in an operatory drilling, doing dentistry, because that's what they do.
Exactly.
You, as an office manager, can handle everything else.
Yeah. And that's really the role.
Yeah.
That everything else is ultimately being handled or overseen by that manager so that the doctor can be in the operatory.
In my home office, I would prefer that my doctor never leave an operatory. Like, he is busy, and we're all in good communication, telling him like, hey doc, I need you in op 2, or now I need you to come check hygiene. But there's never downtime for him to be able to be worried about why isn't a patient confirmed on tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Because we're already handling that, and he's drilling and doing dentistry. And he's in his happy place with that. I'm in my happy place with that.
We're all happy.
We're all happy.
What would you say is the hardest part of especially managing your staff? And also, I think you've spoken really well, I think, to the doctor side of things. On the flip side, you are having to also manage the staff. What do you feel like are some of the challenges that you have, maybe even the challenges that your doctor doesn't even know about, that you're handling on a daily basis?
Oh gosh, this is sad, and I wish I didn't even have to say it, because in a perfect world we would all just get along, right?
Yeah.
But all of the different personalities, sometimes you're going to have conflicts that arise between people, especially whenever you're working closely with one another. Like, my dental assistants sometimes might clash in their opinions and how they think something needs to be handled. And it doesn't, I always ask them to leave all their personal things at the door. So hopefully it's all just professional. But every once in a while we'll have something come up where it's like, well, I really need to talk to you about how so-and-so is doing this or not doing this. And it's part of their job and they're supposed to be doing this. And I say, okay, well, have you talked to them about it? Because I always want them to be able to work things out amongst themselves first, if they can. When my point is, they have to speak respectfully to each other. Mm-hmm. Like, we're not going to attack one another. And so just making sure, okay, did you bring this up to them?
Oh.
Was it received well? Do I need to get involved and be a mediator at this point in time? Mm-hmm. And then I think also making sure that as an office manager, you're not just sitting up front or in your office with the door shut. You have to be out in your practice too. Mm-hmm. You have to walk around. You have to stand outside of a door and listen to how your dental assistants are explaining procedures to a patient, making sure that everybody's leaving with post-op instructions, or, are we getting good quality x-rays? As hygienist, or, listening over your hygienist and things like that.
Yeah.
Are we offering procedures, conjunctive procedures to help them, increase the quality of their oral health and just things like that. So I think that being an office manager and getting out there in your office, listening to people, making sure that they're doing what they need to be doing, but also, like you said before, empowering them to handle their own issues as well. If it escalates, then I'm more than happy to get involved. And I'm more than happy to say, like, let's review this. Let's walk through how we clean an operatory according to OSHA standards. Like, these are all things that have to be done. No ifs, ands, or buts about them.
Right.
So, honestly, like, that's the only thing that comes to mind. It's just...
But I think you make such a important point that I think a lot of doctors, even that listen to this podcast, really need to hear, which is a critical role of the office manager is to have a pulse on the practice. And you can't have a pulse if you're drowning in tasks that the doctor keeps giving you that prevents you from being out in the field with your team. And I think that's one really important thing, because oftentimes I would imagine you could spot issues before they become a problem, because you're not stuck behind a closed door paying all the doctor's bills or running errands for him or her. You're actually out in that office watching things unfold and coaching in the moment, so that, gosh, little Sally, our assistant, keeps missing all these OSHA points, and I didn't catch it until it was 3 weeks in, and now we've got 10 patients that got cold sores afterwards. We're like, what happened? How did this happen? I didn't know, because I wasn't out watching things unfold. And so I think when you've got that kind of connection with your team, you can spot things early, you can pick up on tension early, but also you've got the relationship with them, because you're not stuck behind a door all the time. You're out, you're communicating with them, so that when problems do come up, they come to you, and there's a relationship there where you can intervene. So I think that's really important. And I think sometimes doctors don't necessarily, or can't see the value of that. They think a manager is useful if she's constantly sitting doing something, right?
Oh gosh, yeah. Like, no, don't get me wrong. Okay, so I mentioned earlier about the relationship and communication between doctor and office manager, but you also have to know your team. So having just like we call it like a take 10 check-in. You say, like, hey, what did you do this weekend? Build a relationship with each team member too, so that they're comfortable coming to you.
Yeah.
Because if they just see you as like, oh, she's the office manager, like, she can't be disturbed, her door is closed. Well, they're not going to come to you with any problem, no matter how big or small it is. And you have to be open. You have to be available.
Yeah.
So
I love that little, again, it's almost like you've got your check-ins with the doctor, and the same concept, your check-ins with the team as well.
Yeah, absolutely. They might not be as in-depth.
Right.
It could be a little bit more superficial as to where you're really diving in with your doctor, but still,
it's important
nonetheless.
Yeah. So if you were to give some advice to doctors, let's say that they don't have a manager, or maybe they've got a manager that they can't seem to kind of get in rhythm with, what would be some of the suggestions that you would have for them in developing a strong relationship with their manager, or maximizing their manager?
Well, I think that having more frequent meetings, getting to really know each other, and worst case scenario, it's just not a good fit.
Yeah.
But I think that most of the time, the conflicts arise because you're just not on the same page. And so being able to talk through that and say, okay, what is it that I'm doing that bothers you, or that you don't think is a good way to handle things? And then maybe being able to explain yourself, and maybe you're still growing too as an office manager. We're never done growing, right? So maybe you guys could read like a self-improvement book together, or and then after you guys read it, maybe pass your book on to a team member. There's so many endless ideas and opportunities behind this. Like, I like and this isn't just for doctor and office manager, but I like doing team builders. It gives you and your doctor and your team a time to get outside of the office together, build a relationship so that you can work stronger, harder together while you're in the office. But back to doctor and office manager, I think just having those frequent conversations and meetings so that you can get on the same page and really work cohesively together. That would be my go-to.
Yeah.
Communicate, communicate, communicate.
And I think you're right. Sometimes it's just the joining of two minds. And it doesn't mean that those two minds have to think exactly the same way. But I can think of certain clients of mine that there's a struggle between doctor and office manager. And it's really just the more frequent those communication opportunities are, and the more we talk about what is your vision, okay, and how are we going to get there, and are we thinking the same way? There's a million different paths to the same goal, and I think some doctors can be a little bit more laid back with that path, and they're willing to kind of turn the reins over to the office manager, and there's some that maybe battle a little bit for that control, and it's like
more of a power struggle in layman's terms. Yes. That's why I think that trust has to be there. And the more you communicate and the more that you realize that you guys are on the same page and you're working towards the same goal.
And coming back together on that goal multiple times. Like, remember, this is what we're going for. And repeating that to ourselves, even before we lead out in front of the other people. I think that's important.
Right. And depending on what the goal is, if it's like an annual, production goal, just to make it real generic and nothing too in-depth, like, how often are you guys going to touch base on that? At least every month, right? Like, say, this is where we're at. And, I mean, have a board in the doctor's office or in the break room. Like, this is where we're at. And because it's not just you and the doctor's goal, really. It's the entire office that's going to help you get there. So you can't leave them out of the loop, because if they know, hey, this is where we need to be. This is what we need to strive for today. This is what we need to do for this month, this quarter, the first 6 months. Then you're just, as long as you're aware and you go into the day knowing what your goal is, whether it's a financial goal or, like, hey, I want to do this for a patient today, then it can be achieved. I 100% absolutely think that whatever you set your mind to, you communicate that. Everybody that has respect for you is going to want to help you achieve that as well.
Absolutely.
And so, as a doctor, gaining the respect, and this is where the ego plays in. Like, I shouldn't have to, gain respect from my team members. They should just respect me because I'm the doctor. Well, we're all people still, and you have to speak respectfully to other people, because I don't want to be spoken to, in a bad way or cussed at, which is one of the reasons why I left my paralegal job. I don't think anybody really wants to go into the day thinking, oh, great, what am I going to do wrong today? And so that's where the partnership with the office manager comes in, coaching them and building them and saying, okay, like, we can't do that anymore because that's not the way to handle it. So let's turn it around and do it this way. I know that doctor likes it done this way. And they're going to do it because they want to make you happy. They want to do their job right.
Yeah.
I feel like most of the time people want to do a good job.
I think so too. I really feel like very few people show up to work intending to do a poor job.
Right.
And I think we sometimes forget that.
They're not the right person for your office, and it's time to let them go find a better fit somewhere else.
Turn them down and lose to the competitor down the street, right?
There you go.
Take this dead weight, please.
Hey, it's like, we just lost a dental assistant, but, she's available for hire.
We recommend her for you.
Yeah, she
I love
wasn't fit for us, but she'll be great for you.
No, I think that's an important reminder for our listeners, because I do think that tone, that leadership that we have from the doctor down of respect, and not only just, I'm going to speak to you in a certain way, but that it goes back to that foundational idea that you led with, which is, I trust you to do a good job, and I'm expecting you to do a good job, and I know you're capable of it. And that's an empowering message rather than, oh, I thought you were going to fail today, and you did once again. Like, nobody wants to show up and hear that over and over and over again. And again, that really starts from the top down, and the manager can really execute that tone if she knows she's got a doctor behind her that maybe isn't perfect at that tone, because again, I think again, we've got that ego sometimes that we can deal with, but I think if they stay neutral enough where that office manager can execute that tone and they don't sway it one way or the other, then that manager really can create a culture of empowering the workers and the team. And so I think the doctor is critical in that, because if that manager is trying to create that culture and that doctor is negative Nelly behind the scenes and constantly critiquing and constantly complaining and speaking disrespectfully, that manager has no backing and will not be able to create that atmosphere.
Oh, it's so disheartening too. Like, I was so lucky and have learned so much as a manager's role from my doctor, because really whenever I started, we didn't have an office manager. It was him. It was him doing the dentistry and him running the business as well. And him trusting us to do what we needed to do is kind of like where I learned everything. I mean, I was young, I didn't really have a whole lot of managerial experience coming into any of this. So, or work experience for that, because I had gone to college and then a paralegal job and then dentistry. So everything that I've learned as far as like how to be fair and how to trust people and, just handle all aspects of a dental office really came from him.
Yeah.
And, I had some mentors along the way. I know that I've reached out to you every now and then and been able to talk just as a friendly ear, and it's been so helpful, and I've been so grateful for everything that I've learned from my dental family.
Yeah, lots of good people. We're lucky to have a good, strong, extra strong dental family. So we always have listening ears. Sometimes we don't want to listen, right?
That's right.
Oh, no, I appreciate it. I feel like this is going to be super helpful we've got a lot of practice owners and dentists that listen, and I think it's just helpful for them to maybe get a perspective from a manager that's not their manager, and I think you've represented managers very well today, as I knew you would.
Well,
so.
Thank you. I know I squirreled a little bit every now and then going off subject with your questions, but I felt like it was important things to say as
Absolutely.
well. So I'm sorry.
Absolutely. No, I loved having you on today,
and
and I just appreciate your time, especially because, listeners, it is her birthday, so everybody out there can just silently sing happy birthday in their head to Amanda. So thanks for joining me on your birthday today.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining the conversation today. We hope that you are comforted in knowing that you are not alone, but we also hope that you're walking away with some really great tips and tricks to try in your practice. We value your feedback, so please take a few moments to rate and review the podcast. Finally, we want to make sure that we're covering the topics that matter to you. So track us down on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and let us know what topics you want us to cover. As always, please know that we are rooting for you today as you manage your dental drama.